county is one of those that is still putting its structures together, and the people are still coming together. But they did such a great job. They did such a great job inviting people all over the place. And right there, yesterday, within 3 hours, they were able to raise close to $50,000, ladies and gentlemen. Close to $50,000 yesterday in Kupe Manuguba draft. Now, when we talk about 87,000, we are adding what the initial amount that the Kupe people got from the very first day of the launching of the draft. And so when you add what they got, what Kupe Manuguba got from the launching of the draft, the very first day when the draft was launched, when you add that figure up to what came in yesterday, that is where we say they have $88,000. They raised $88,000. I would love everybody out there to give thumbs up to the people of Kupe Manuguba. They did an excellent job. And also one thing I observed yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, Kupe Manuguba, even as still unorganized as they are, they had the highest number of attendance in their Zoom meeting. At the top of the number, it was 233. 233 in Kupe Manuguba's Zoom meeting. And the people who showed up manifested their presence by donating generously for the prosecution of this war in Kupe Manuguba. Again, if you are listening, if you are watching, go ahead, give thumbs up to the people, the comrades, the men and the women, Amazonians out there in Kupe Manuguba, those chiefs who are accepting guns and money from French Cameroon to go after our legitimate Amazonian restoration forces in Kupe Manuguba. They are in trouble. They are in trouble right now. Again, it was such a wonderful display of patriotism for the people of Kupe Manuguba. That was the 4th county in line. We had Manu, we had Bui, we had Ngo Ketunja, and then yesterday was Kupe Manuguba. I think Fako is coming up next weekend. Yes, I think it is a turn of Fako next weekend. So ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to be here. I have 2 exciting guests for you here today, but I'm not releasing the names yet. Go ahead, hit your share button. Let us populate this platform as quickly as possible. As quickly as possible. Lots of things are happening. Lots of things are happening in La République du Cameroon, ladies and gentlemen, and I come to you today to reassure you that we are on the right track. We are on the right track, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the right track, and you don't need to hear it from me. You need to hear it when Francophones are beginning to call it. You know what I mean by calling it? When the referee calls the game, it means the referee has put the final score to the game. And so when Francophones are beginning to call the result, the outcome of this war, then you know things are not looking that really good for French Cameroon. And we are going to discuss that as I get my platform here ready. So please go ahead, hit your share button. I don't like the pace at which the numbers are rising. Please, if you are just joining, go ahead, hit your share button. Hit your share button, ladies and gentlemen. Hit your share button. Let's populate the platform, this platform, in the next few minutes so I can bring in our reporter. We have 2 people who shall be bringing us developments from ground zero today I have a Shia Tatash Sevezm, my comrade from the Republic of Russia who became a Bui citizen. You know, Sevezm sounds Russian, right? All right. So he will be bringing us a report on what is going on in Jakiri, and of course in Garbo. And we also have Bate Robert, who shall be joining us from Ground Zero with a report of how Ground Zero is seeing all these developments in the diaspora, the world draft. And of course, he will talk about Garbo also. So please go ahead. We have an exciting show. You are just joining. Go ahead. Hit your share button. And let's quickly populate the platform so that I can bring in these reports. And of course, the exciting guest that I have for you today. And while I am waiting for you to do your part by populating the platform, 700 people, let me take this quick update about ABC Amber TV. Ladies and gentlemen, ABC is going to be having the last war draft. ABC is going to be having the last war draft. How many of you know ABC is a whole war box? Over here, we fight with our mouths, we fight with our lips, we fight with the sounds of the waves, we fight by way of the airwaves. And I'm telling you, we are making progress, and the world is hearing us, the nations are hearing us. And so, ABC Amber Club members have resolved, ladies and gentlemen, ABC is going to become the 14th county in this world draft exercise. And so, in July, ladies and gentlemen, ABC shall be having the last of the world draft. This time, it is about the nation of Ambazonia, which means every Ambazonian from Ground Zero to Europe to Asia to the USA to Canada to South America coming on board to stand on the side of ABC. And we got some very, very exciting packaging that we shall be bringing to you, to present to you, show you the new looks of Amber Television, Amber ABC. So please get ready for July. ABC shall never ever be the same again. Please hit your share number, hit your share button, I beg your pardon. Hit your share button. Let's fuel this, populate this platform so I can come to you with this correspondence on Ground Zero. Go ahead, do that quickly. Let me see who has joined the platform here. Tendong Imba. Oh, thank you for joining, sir. Imba. No, this is Imbu Emerson. So I want to be a member of ABC Club. Thank you, sir. All you need to do to become a member of ABC Club is get to ABC website, which is www.abcambertv.org. Again, that web address is www.abcambertv.org. Once you get on the website, there is a banner on the top right of the website. You click on that banner, it takes you to the registration page, and you choose your amount, your monthly amount, subscription amount, and just follow the instructions. Within 5 minutes, you should finish doing the registration. And I also want to let you to know so many people have been calling us and saying, hey, Secretary Chris, I'd like to be able to make a one-time donation to ABC. Yes, we got that link also working. You can make a one-time donation to ABC if you want to do that. Some people want to pay. Some people want to pay their registration in a single donation. Yeah, you can go there, click on the menu bar above. You will see the word donation. You find the word donation. All you need to do is click on the word donation. It takes you to the next page where you make the donation, whatever amount that you want to make, and we will get it. So thank you for that. Thank you, sir. Ambazonia, winning, watching from ground zero. You are very correct, sir. You are very correct. Stars, my ABC Club members, please, let's get ready for our ABC TV World Drive. Thank you, Startel. All right, yes, let every Ambazonian get ready. Please hit your share button. The numbers are rising quite slowly. We haven't hit up to 600 yet. Please go ahead, hit your share button. Bison Goud, good to see you, sir. Our lion man, thank you. Mambo Pena, I see you. Julius Ambe, Atanganji is watching with a fake profile, please. Thank you, sir. I know they're always watching. They're always watching. They're watching in the presidency. They're watching in the embassies. They're watching at the United Nations. They're watching at the FBI. They're watching. Oh, I'm serious. These are the places I know for sure that they are watching, especially when I am here. So please, Bebe Martin, I see you. Jacob Sirius, watching from South Africa. Wonderful. I also see Zoe Anderson, always here. Otello General, always here. Amber. Okay, please hit your share button. Hit your share button as you join. Hit your share button as you join. Rosalind Lem, Keshi, Ambazonia, the only way is up. Absolutely, Rosalind. Judita Zhang, I see you. Indi Inkem Anumbong. Wow, that is a beautiful name. Do you know what Anumbong means? It means something good. That's a typical BLF name. Anumbong. My name is Anuchenga. That is my complete name, ladies and gentlemen, which also means everything waits for its time. That's the meaning of my name. Anuchenga, something or everything waits for its time. Anumbong means something good. LBLM has some very, very beautiful names out there. You wait until you get the meaning of those names. I'm sure some of you do also from your counties and LGS. All right. Please, the numbers are slow. Desmond Elliott, the guru on the web on this page. Thank you, Desmond. Gideon G. Indo Bryce, my comrade in London. Good to see you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will, while you go ahead and populate the platform, I will get to my agents who have some reports to bring to us from ground zero. And we are all aware, ladies and gentlemen, that a number of things have been taking place on ground zero. We heard of reports in the Garbo, the French Cameroon military, after going invading Garbo and killing over 40 civilians about 2 months ago, an act for which they took responsibility. They then went ahead to erect a military base in that same community, as if to say the massacre, the genocide that they committed in that place was what the people needed. The military base is what the people needed. You think that French Cameroon will be talking about redemption, redemption for the families, for the community of Garbo? No, that is not what they are thinking. They issue out a report, indict their own military, but guess what? You think they will start by punishing that military? No, they are not punishing that military. What they do is further build insecurity in that community. And so yesterday, we saw footages of Amazonians in Garbo packing out of that community, running for their dear lives as military trucks poured into the community yesterday. We learned that some were shot to death as many others took off for Kumbo. I would like to invite Robert Bate, who has been following up these developments and who is standing by to bring us updates as per what is going on in Garbo. And after Robert, I will bring in Comrade Shea Tata Sevism, who will also be bringing us report on what is happening in Jakiri. We have learned that in Jakiri, French Cameroon military, they began to pack out of Jakiri. We don't know what that means. Apparently, we don't want to believe for a second that they are packing out for good. But whatever they are doing, we will try to get an understanding of it from our correspondent on the ground. Now, this is the report that was sent in to us from our reporter. Just listen to this, please.
The new initiative by the interim government of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia War Draft has reawakened hope and commitment in the cause of the restoration of the statehood of Southern Cameroons. The ongoing award initiative has seen counties expressing their resolve to build a stronger Amazonia, beginning from the local government area level. The initiative that goes county by county is already demonstrating a sense of determination and commitment by Amazonians willing to take the revolution to another level. According to figures already drafted, Manu County stands at $100,000, Boy, $46,000, Momo, $55,000, Ngokitunja County, $85,000, Kupe Maningoba, $87,000. It would be the turn of Menchum come May 30th, Fako County, May 31st, Ndian County, June 6th, Mezam County, June 7th, Donga Mountain County, June the 13th, Libialem County, June 14th, Meme County, June 20th, and Boyo County on June the 21st. Meanwhile, the president of the interim government of Amazonia, Dr. Samuel Sakoikome, has thanked counties already drafted and encouraged rest of counties to continue in same spirit. He assures Amazonians of his selfless commitment to ensure that Amazonians would receive nothing else than a complete restoration of Southern Cameroon's statehood. He has called on all to remain focused and shun distraction from enemies and enablers.
All right, that was our correspondent, Robert Bate, bringing us those updates for the Amber War Draft. Now, he also sent in this report on what is going on in Garbo. So please listen.
In the northern zone, precisely in Du local government area, Donga Mountain County, La République de Cameroon has gone ahead to start the construction of a military base in Garbo, despite widespread denunciation. Dust is yet to settle on the massacre same military carried out in this same locality on February the 14th that saw the gruesome killing of over 30 people, including children, babies, and women. The intention by the La Republique government is not yet disclosed. Remaining villagers of Garbo were seen fleeing their homes into neighboring villages as soldiers made their way into Garbo with caterpillars and armory. Following pressure from human rights groups and the international community, La République du Cameroon government admitted her soldiers carried out the massacre, aided by some members of the vigilantes set up by overzealous politicians. In order to cleanse face in front of the international community, La République du Cameroon mentioned names of some military officers said to be responsible for the Garbo massacre, but no action has so far been taken against the accused. Before and after Garbo massacre, other massacres have been taking place across southern Cameroon and counting. As solutions and negotiations continue to delay, the southern Cameroon, through her restoration forces, has resolved to use any means possible to defend her territory.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our guy on the ground, Robert Bate. Now, let me get the live Comrade Tata Setvism with Candy Media, who shall be giving us updates on what happened in Jakiri, about what happened in Jakiri. Let me see, I can get him. Okay.
Yeah, hello, Secretary Chris.
Hello, comrade. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. What about you?
Good, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me on the line Comrade Tata Setvism, the Russian comrade who migrated to Kumba. Now, your name Setvism sounds Russian.
Yes, people used to think that people from some of our names that we originate from Russia. You will get people like last time you talk of Verzakov.
Yeah, Verzakov and others.
And all Davidsons and so on.
Yes. All right. So please tell me about what happened in Jakiri yesterday. We learned that French Cameroon soldiers began to pull out of Jakiri yesterday, and your media, as Candy Media, actually reported on it. And first of all, let me appreciate you for what you do. I like people who report facts and not propaganda, and not rumor, and not allegations. I like when people report factual stories, and you have been doing that. I just want you to know that I really recognize that, and I appreciate it, because we need sources of information out there that we can really trust and rely on. Thank you for that.
I appreciate.
So tell us what happened in Jakiri yesterday, and I guess today also we have learned French Cameroon soldiers began packing out of Jakiri. Is that true?
Not really packing out of Jakiri. What actually happened is that on yesterday at about midday, we got information that the BRIR, that's
yes,
the Rapid Intervention Unit of Cameroon. You know, this force was created to fight Boko Haram and to help keep President Biya in power. They were never trained to fight professional restoration forces. So they have been unable to tackle the restoration forces, and they have also been maltreated because they came and built a camp at the veterinary school in Jakiri, and that is where they have been harboring them. In addition to that, Jakiri has a police post and a gendarmerie as well, and it looks like they were sidelined and they have not been taking care of them. And yesterday, for some reasons, after they failed to help rig the elections and neutralize the Bui warriors in order that the mayors and the councillors could function, they started packing out, and we are told almost the whole campus is empty now as we speak.
Do we know how many of them were in the campus?
The number that I was told was about 22, but I am not very sure yet. I have contacted
22, that's not a big number. Now, how many camps, how many military camps do we have in Bui?
When you talk about military camp, we are talking about the terrorist camps here.
The terrorist camps, correct.
Okay, let it be known that Jakiri is just one of the LGS in Bui.
Correct.
And this particular area is situated just about 2 kilometers away from the main Jakiri town, and their base is mainly to assist the police and the gendarmes that are situated in Jakiri.
And
So,
was that supposed to be the only base, terrorist base in Jakiri?
No, we have also the military, the military that patrols the whole area. We have Kumbu to Jakiri is about 20 to 25 kilometers.
Okay.
So we have so many military bases in the whole of Bui, and they have been working hand in glove. You will notice that the greatest La Republique sniper that was sent from the north, Sergeant Musa, who was neutralized by the Bui Major General in
Yeah.
the one who used to assist them, he was also living at the gendarmerie, meaning that apart from the fact that they had a military camp there with the B in at the veterinary school, they also have military living at the police stations and at the gendarmerie.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So what seems to happen is that it looks like there is a conflict, an internal conflict between the military, the normal military, and the B.
Okay.
So actually, most of the groups that started leaving, packing out, were Bs. And I would tell you that a similar situation happened on Saturday, which I got the information late, and that's why I didn't report it. I only updated today. Is that the La Republique military in Kor is another LGA which is in Noni,
Okay.
and that is also in Bui. They had a military exchange between them and the B. It was bloody. I am not aware if someone died, but I was told that.
Also, you are saying there was an exchange of fire between the air military and the BIRs.
Exactly. And
when did this happen?
On Saturday.
Okay.
On Saturday. So immediately it was over, Bill packed out of Nkor, and we got the information late. So B is packing out from Kor, which is in Noni LGA, and B has also packed out from Jakiri, which is Zekwa LGA.
Okay.
So that incident has not only happened in Kor and Noni, it has also happened in Elak Oku, still in Bui County.
Okay.
Yes. So, and the military, interestingly, what has happened in Oku is that they have been working in collaborations with some informants who happen to be our own people. And as they were packing out, we could see that some people were even pleading and asking the military not to leave Oku. Majority of them have been living with
who was begging the military not to leave Oku? Was that the civilians?
The civilians that have been working with them, giving them information, because they know now that they have been abandoned to themselves. They thought that the military they were going to work with the military to extort money from the regime as usual.
Right.
But unfortunately, it looks like they have been abandoned to themselves, and that should be a lesson to our people who collaborate with them. military.
Yeah, thank you. Now, in Garbo, people started running out of the community. Yesterday, there were allegations of some shootings, the military shooting civilians, and people began packing out. Also, a convoy, I think I learned, of about 8 military trucks came in there. What have you learned? What have you learned about Garbo?
Will it permit you to know that Garbo, the name is Wimbum, which is part of the Ndu LGA in the Ndonga Mantum.
Okay.
And they share, what actually divides them is just a route path with another one called Ngar, which is the path from Bui. And the people have been living together as one. It's even very difficult to distinguish who is from Ndonga Mantum and who is from Bui. So we have been following up, and our boys have also been fighting and covering up that aspect. We have the Bui warriors have a camp in Zebru in Bam, which is just about 5 kilometers from that area, and we dispatched some of them to go to the field, and that is why you see the report that we put out there. And they realize that the people have kept to their word, their promise, which they said they wanted to build a military base there.
Right.
So they have dispatched some military men, and they have dispatched caterpillars and other machines that have already been digging their way through. But you know, as usual, they never do this without provocation. They suddenly started shooting again, and shooting indiscriminately, and the civilians decided to escape into the bushes, as you saw from the video which I shared with you and in public.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why we got from our intelligence, you know, we have sources also. We work with people at the military who give us a lot of information. We are told that the incident in Garbo has brought them on their knees, and some are even suggesting that because of the coltan mineral that was found in Bui, they have the feeling that it is even extended to that up to that part, and that the reason of putting a military base is not only to have control militarily, but also to have access to the minerals that have been pushing them all through to...
What is the authenticity of that story of minerals discovered in, is in the Garbo area, am I correct?
Yes.
What is the authenticity of that story, and when was that discovery done?
What we have is that we got a link which I will share with you later about this coltan, and I have been still under investigations that I don't want to give information that I don't have facts. Like you said, I always want to have facts. But
okay.
You know, the problem with La Republique is that there is no rumor in Cameroon.
Okay.
And that's why when they hear things like this, they want to get grip of it before being disappointed at the end.
Thank you very much, comrade. We will get back to you. You will become a regular feature here on ABC because, again, I like your reports. You do authentic, verifiable stories.
Could I tell you something before I go that we got from one of the military informants about they have?
Sure.
Yeah, we want the people to know that apart from Ngarbu is very close to Mwa. And that the military has not only packed out, has also packed out from Nwa, which is in Ndonga Mantum. Military has also packed out from Tatum, which is Nkum LGA, still in Bui.
Okay.
And what they are doing is we also got that military has also packed out from Ngi in Momo County.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, and what is happening is that within the course of this week, we are expecting them to pack out from 15 more locations.
I will give you an assignment. Please follow up on those desertions. Let us know exactly where they are packing out from. Could this be that they are trying to slowly pull out of the territory Please follow up. Let's know. So far in the southern zone, we don't know of any base from which they are pulling out, but let's follow up and see.
Yes, people have also brought caution and said that we could be having the retreat could be to re-strategize, and that is why the warriors have.
Of course.
The warriors.
They cannot come in and build camps and then pull out in months.
Yes, and we got the last thing before you go is that we also have report that about 8 trucks just left Kutaba and are coming towards Paminda. So we are also thinking that maybe the military that was in the area, they have been agitating, and they might want to change the military to bring new blood.
Well, that is possible. Thank you very much. Please remain safe, and over the week we shall still be talking. Gather more facts for us, please.
Thank you for having me, Secretary Chris, and it was my pleasure.
Thank you, sir. God bless. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was Shea Tata Civism of Scandi Media. Scandi Media. I'm sure many of you out there read his stories from his platform. He does a very, very good job. He doesn't write propaganda. He doesn't publish rumor. He publishes real stories. So I encourage you to, if you find anything coming from him, you can take it for gospel truth. Of course, errors can be made where some stories are reported. Some stories reported turn out not to be true, but he does a good job to bring factual stories. At this moment, ladies and gentlemen, I have two guests. With me in the studio, I should say, on the set. And they are very, very exciting guests that all of you would love to listen to. I have with me on the set Professor Patrice Ngana, whom you all know very, very well, and he has a video footage which is going viral. I got up this morning and stumbled on it. I don't understand French, not even a little bit, but very little. I listened to it. Fortunately, somebody from Ground Zero sent it to me and with a transcription, and I was able to get what Patrice Nganang was saying in that footage. And I called him up and said, can you come on ABC and tell us what you are seeing, what you are feeling about this senseless, useless war that French Cameroon declared on Ambazonia? And ladies and gentlemen, he is with me in the studio. Patrice, sir, I hope you can hear me, and it's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Yes, hello, Chris. It is my pleasure to be on your show. It is always my pleasure to be tuning with you. Hopefully one day you will learn French, because French doesn't have anything to do with Cameroon. As you well know, it is a language from Europe.
I am also joined on the set with the one and only Barrister Fru John, or John Fru. And so, hello, Barrister John. Good to have you here, sir.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for inviting me to this exciting show. I'll be on the show for the first time with Professor Patrice Ngana, which I've not met, but I've read so much about him. And it's very exciting. Thank you very much. They're seeing you, Elvis. What is going on?
I think I can take this occasion to say hello to Barrister So. The pleasure is mine indeed. And at the same time, I can say hello to Elvis Cometa, who is there on the backyard. I hope he's memories of some. Yeah, we have good memories of some actions we did together, and of some of our dreams that are still hanging on there.
Yeah. Thanks, Prof.
But we are winning. Elvis, we are winning.
Yes, we are, Prof. We are.
I think Secretary Chris disappeared. I suspect we'll have to fill up the gap, amongst ourselves. Huh?
Yeah,
What? How are you? How are you, sir?
Well, I'm fine. I'm fine, Prof. It's very exciting. I've read so much about you. I listened to your audio that has gone viral, and it was quite exciting. It was quite detailed. Thank you.
So maybe since I did run a TV station myself, I will simply try and take over from Chris here until he comes and interrupts me, because it is simply a technical issue, I suspect.
Correct.
So the topic is and was to assess the victories of Amazonia until we come to what is ahead of us, which is negotiations. And I think all of us are in a way excited about it. It is the culmination of substantial work that was done by you, by Elvis, by Secretary Peace, etc., by thousands of people, including on the ground and specifically on the ground. So my basic arguments, I'll try and summarize them quickly. 4 victories, 4 successes. I would say victory is a little bit larger. We'll talk about victory when the deal is sealed. But I talk of successes. The first one is, of course, a military one, which is to say that a large army in general will never, be able to be defeated so totally by a smaller one. But the small army can deny victory to the large one, and that is what is happening in Amazonia. The consequence of that is all those massacres you have on civilians, all those, and Garbo, for instance, Bali, the name is, we have I think 341, now maybe 350 massacres on civilians committed by the military that obviously cannot win. And daily we have soldiers who are killed. So as such, the Cameroonian military cannot claim any victory because it is a protracted war. And as a consequence, it is a success for the insurgency and for the combatants on the ground. So that is the military aspect. The moral aspect is equally important. It is not possible to wage a war without a moral argument. Actually, a war is waged mostly on a moral ground because it is very bloody. So nobody can excuse or explain why people are killing each other except for a moral high ground. And the moral high ground of the Cameroonian army cannot be that it has weapons, because the Vastava, etc., AK-47 it has are also the same that are on the other side, on our side. So as a consequence, the Cameroonian army can only claim to be a national army, which is to say an army that is bilingual. So the bilingualism becomes the national argument here. But as we see ourselves on the ground, particularly through many of those massacres, and specifically out of the any analysis of what happened in Garbo, it is clear that the chain of command is totally francophone, and so all of them actually are francophone, and the people who are killed, Amazonians are anglophones. Obviously, it is only one case. One could have taken the 400 cases and would have been the same. But what Garbo showed is that all those people who are on the chain of command, the military
Uh,
leaders.
uh,
Oh
uh,
yes,
please,
please.
Patrice, I would like you to take it point by point as you listed to me
Mm-hmm.
what is going on, why you think French Cameroon is beginning to lose this war. You mentioned some 4 points where you think that Ambazonians have the urge. And you also mentioned some 2 points where you think that French Cameroon is making or have gained. Can you go ahead and put it exactly the way you put it?
Yes, I think I will not need to repeat the military argument here. I'll simply go ahead and continue on the moral one. And I was saying that morally, an army like the Cameroonian one claims to represent the nation, and the Cameroonian nation, as defined by the constitution, is bilingual, and so therefore the Cameroonian army should be bilingual. Now, what happened on the ground is that we've seen ourselves that, and specifically from cases that are indisputable, from Garbo to Bali, etc., that the chain of command, particularly the military chain of command, is made of francophones only. One can start with Dia and go, to the bottom. One will see. And as far as the military personnel is concerned, all of them are trained in one specific French school, which is Saint-Cyr. All of them, from Ka to Meka, etc., etc. Nyangono, all those people, they are Bulu and they are trained at Sensi, the military people. So therefore, one cannot say that it is a bilingual army. It is clearly a francophone army, and it is an army in which the chain of command is tribal. It is a Bulu line of command, and they actually will not even need to speak in French. They will have to speak in their mother tongue. They will understand each other. So militarily, there is morally, there is no way Cameroon can claim any high ground. It's impossible. The third argument is based on economics. There is no war. We will be children if we imagine that economics is not the driving force of war. That is the bottom line. The bottom line is oil. The oil you have on in the southwest, Rio del Rey, etc. That is what makes it necessary for French Cameroon to intervene, to kill people, to shed blood, etc., because they want to keep access to that oil. And as we well know, oil is the second source of revenue for the state of Cameroon. The first one being beer, specifically brasserie, etc. But number two is oil. So now we read a couple of days ago from the Wall Street Journal that the production of oil and gas was suspended because of insecurity. And I think it is momentous. It is the second chapter of something that had happened already with, the explosion in Sonara, the fire that had burned down the refineries of Sonara. But that the Wall Street Journal will specifically say that the production of oil and gas was suspended in Rio del Rey is momentous. It means Cameroon has just suspended one of its major sources of income. And that such a suspension is caused by insecurity. It's a proof that indeed, the war that's being waged against, the state of Cameroon is having a major success. And as we well remember, one of the tactics of that war was actually to sabotage economic, facilities. For instance, the CDC was a casualty of that. So one can claim here that you have a clear victory that is on the board. Now, the fourth one is a diplomatic victory, and I'm very happy to see Elvis there in the backyard, in your backyard, Barrister, because I was, a part of the diplomatic incursion, I would say, of which Elvis was also a member. So lobbying around, working in Congress, calling, representatives, etc. It is bearing fruits. One of the goals of that was indeed to make sure that the platform of having the two warring parties actually come together, but under with the mediation of a third party, will be taken seriously. And as we well know, 1 year ago, the Swiss model was accepted, and that is what one is working on. But what is important though is that on April the 16th, the French ambassador actually met Biya, and when he came out of his meeting with Biya, he said the following. He said that France will not finance any reconstruction in Amazonia if the state of Cameroon does not negotiate with Amazonian fighters, with Amazonian groups. As it is a major breakthrough, I will say. There are other chapters that can be added to that, but it is essential to say that it is an acknowledgement of one thing, which is to say that what they were calling the Grand Dialogue National is killed, is dead, is a no-go anymore. And one has moved to something else, which is to accept the thing for which we were doing all the lobbying. Just to summarize, 4 key victories. The first is a military victory. The second is a moral victory. The third is an economic victory. And of course, the fourth is a diplomatic victory.
Now, you are speaking the language of Dieudonné Essomba and the language of Jean-Pierre Dupont. Is this what the Francophone majority are now thinking, that the war is actually unwinnable, that Amazonians are actually making a lot more progress than French Cameroon? Is that the is that the consensus in the Francophone community?
I don't know what those two people say. I've read some of their analysis, etc. But I will say my own reading of it. One cannot talk of a victory unless the Francophone side collapses. And history is there to give us some lessons, from Portugal to even Zimbabwe, etc. So you need to have a certain a collapse of power on the Francophone side to have a transformation of those key victories into of those key successes into a victory. Now, your original question was about the Francophone side. There are 2 elements I would like to put on the table here. Number one is that during this last year, we had some what I would call a popular uprising outside of the territory itself, so in the diaspora. And we had an attempt to have actually a majority of people coalesce around the very idea that change is only possible on the Francophone side, so an uprising. And that one had 2 key successes. The first one was, of course, that we could chase Biya away from his lodging in Geneva, at the Hotel Intercontinental in Geneva. Can you imagine? It took 10 years to actually do that, because Biya was actually one of the, if not the only head of state on the globe to spend 6 months in Geneva without any protest. And for the first time, he could be kicked out of that hotel and sent back to Cameroon. It is a major victory. And of course, it destroyed the specific myth of him being untouchable and of him having the command of his own destiny as a head of state. The second key success is, of course, the mobilization to free, those hundreds of people who were arrested on January the 28th, 2019, and the first of whom being Maurice Kamto. To free them, not based on legal proceedings, etc., but based on an uprising which included the sacking of embassies in France, in Germany, and making sure that the representatives of the state are not safe outside of Cameroon itself. And
we will come back to that, Prof. We will come back to that. But let's get back to the prosecution of this war by Southern Cameroonians, Amazonians. Do you see, is it the belief in French Cameroon that Amazonians are gone?
These are 2 issues. The first being that Amazonians winning, and the second being is Ambazonia gone? These are two sets of things. You will not accept the second one without having accepted the first one. So
Okay.
therefore, it is important that people like me or that public intellectuals like Samba, etc., make sure that francophones understand that the state is losing in Amazonia. It's losing on those four chapters. It's really heavily losing. It is important that people understand that. And if you go throughout history, you will see, you can take Nigeria, etc. When there is a war in a region, like there was a war in Biafra, people in Lagos, they actually did not care. They continued their business,
And that's
etc. You
exactly
can
what is happening in French Cameroon, right? Many people, they don't care. They go about their business. I understand that the bars had declared a ghost town for all of French Cameroon today, and people wake up this morning, went about their normal business.
Yeah, so but it is not unusual though. You'll take Sudan, you'll take Zimbabwe, you'll take even South Africa, you'll take any other country. It is always the case that when there is a war in the periphery, the capital is basically untouched, and the state media makes it impossible for anybody to have any unrest there. So the fact that you don't have any massive movement of people going out, for instance, to support Amazonia on the street, is the consequence of the war that's being fought in those regions, and it is totally classical. It is not surprising. It is not surprising. Maybe you can even take Ethiopia during the Eritrean war. You will not have daily protests on the street in Addis Ababa. It did not happen. But what is possible is that step by step, through the intervention of public intellectuals, people will come to understanding that that there is a war being fought, that that war is being lost, and the consequence of that slow undermining of the confidence of the people in the city will bring the power in that city down. That's what I call the collapse of power. So it never happened that a war, for instance, in Bamenda will have a loss in Yaoundé. No, it is a collapse that one has in Yaoundé, and that collapse is a slow motion collapse, step by step. First of all, through public opinion, through a presentation of those cases of military brutality, of the naming of who is the enemy, of a presentation of casualties, and step by step you have a building of that sense of security, which normally sustains itself through state propaganda.
And talking about a collapse in Yaoundé, what do you know? What do you know? What have you learned is going on in Yaoundé? We understand, we're hearing of stories, allegations of was it Ngongo? Is it Franklin Ngongo? Or moving his family out? We are learning of the military being agitative about what is going on. They are being ordered to kill in the Amazonian territory, and they are essentially throwing them for prosecution at the ICC. There are financial issues, but Ansat will tell you that right now in Yaoundé, they cannot pay civil servants. What are you hearing, Patrice?
Yeah, a combination of all that, but it still boils down to the fact that a slow motion collapse of the state is happening in front of us. It doesn't help that one has a pandemic, COVID, but what we are seeing is a slow motion collapse. What we need, of course, is a bold action. If there was a bold action, it will precipitate such a collapse, and such a scenario will transform the successes I just listed into a victory. So what we need, and it is something you've had in many other countries, the slow collapse is actually precipitated by a bold action, be it a coup, be it an uprising, be it a mutiny. So you have those things that that are still possible, but they are the combination of those multiple examples you just mentioned. So we seem to have a book in front of us now, and we list them, and we see that it is an accumulation of things. The consequence of which, of course, is that the state becomes nervous and cracks down on any form of opposition. Today, we saw that Kamto, for instance, had people in front of his house, shouting, bad words at him, etc. Things like that, or people on the street being harassed when they simply want to, distribute some things. So it means the state itself is feeling the sense of insecurity, of structural insecurity that otherwise will be read as an introduction into its own downfall. But for the moment, we are talking about the slow motion collapse and not of downfall.
Thank you. Let me navigate to Barrister John. Barrister John, there is a lot, as Patrice has said, that is going on in La République du Cameroon, be it with the citizens, be it with the administration. A lot is going on. We learned today that people went to the bank for their salaries in Yaoundé, in that matter, not in Bamenda, not in Boya, in Yaoundé, and they were told to go back, that there is no money to pay them yet. They should come on a later day. Please give us a picture of what you are learning on ground zero.
Thank you, Chris. Before I say that, I'd like to congratulate Professor Ngana for a mastery of the Queen's language. I am very surprised. I am very surprised. I'm not altogether surprised because he's a professor in an American university. Having said that, Chris, I heard this morning, I communicated with a lawyer and a cousin of mine. He is a lawyer, and then another person that I communicated with was a cousin of mine who's a civil servant in Yaoundé. These are people who live from month to month with salaries. He went to the bank today and he was told that there is no money yet to be paid and that it should come on a later date. And he is very worried. And that is a clear indication, like the Prof said, a slow collapse of the economic system. The economy is on a downfall. I don't know whether I can call it a free fall yet, but I have been listening very carefully to what the professor is saying. You know, Prof, there is a power vacuum in Yaoundé right now. I don't know whether you know that. I have been reading very carefully, and that power vacuum is beginning to show very clearly. And if Chris asks me that question next, I will be able to explain what I mean. But you should know that there's a power vacuum in Yaoundé. It looks like Chris is not there yet. It's not still there. Prof, you read the dying declaration of the Colonel Medicine Marius?
Go ahead, Barrister John. Explain what you mean by the power vacuum.
Well, the power vacuum is that since the 22nd of March or thereafter until now, we don't know where the whereabouts of Mr. Biya. And finally, it is becoming clearer and clearer that Mr. Biya had died. Whether Cameroonians will accept that or not, I find La République du Cameroon a very strange African country. Very strange that a head of state would be in such a posture and the whole populace, the population is quiet. And everything seems to be going as if there was nothing. The medical doctor, Colonel Medicine, the Medicine Colonel Etundu Marius, on dying in a hospital in Yaoundé, made a death declaration. He actually certified the death of Mr. Biya. He was the one black doctor among the 5 doctors that were there, including 4 Swiss doctors. And he actually certified the death of Mr. Biya before he himself got admitted in the hospital because he got infected as a result of attending to Mr. Biya.
Have the French newspapers, I mean French Cameroon newspapers, have they reported that story? Because I'm becoming very skeptical nowadays, reading stories on the social media. Have any of the papers they reported on it?
Chris, if I relied on what I read on social media, I would not be talking, because I take everything in social media with a grain of salt. But I have been talking to lawyers in Yaoundé, I've been talking to people in Yaoundé, and everybody believes that story.
Patrice, what do you know about that story?
They go ahead to tell me that it's a story that everybody in Yaoundé knows, but nobody wants to talk about it. So you and I, this is not a story. I had declared on this network, and I continue to declare, Mr. Biya had died.
Patrice, what do you know about the story of the general, of the doctor?
If you want me to add, I would say he has even buried traditionally. But that's a different story. The whole thing, the French ambassador's attitude in Yaoundé, holding meetings with government officials, behaving as if he is now the de facto president. Where is Mr. Biya? If really he was alive, even in a comatose state, even in a state that is not acceptable, something would have triggered people to know that he was sick. All Cameroon, all people in Yaoundé know that Mr. Biya had died. From my talking, I am here in Maryland, but I'm in Yaoundé every day on the phone, every practical day. And most of the people, everybody in Yaoundé knows the story, but nobody wants to talk about it. This is a strange African country that the head of state will die, and the population, everybody is afraid to say anything or to do anything. And I heard the professor talk about a gradual collapse. Yes, there is a gradual collapse because there's the oligarchy that has taken over power in Yaoundé, and they are unable to exercise that power completely because the head of that power is not there. And they are deceiving the public with fake videos, with fake information, with everything that you can imagine, and the population is quiet. How do you explain that? It cannot happen in other African countries. I like to say that. What is going on in Yaoundé?
Let's say my own reading. I'll give a small introduction to what I'm trying to say. It is that you have two countries here that are very much, because you're talking about other African countries. I'll take Ethiopia before the fall of Haile Selassie, and of course the consequence of that fall, independence of Eritrea. That is one country where one saw the model of, on one hand, a war that's been fought in the periphery, and on the other hand, the collapse, the slow collapse, and finally the collapse of the state itself, of the state leadership. The second one, of course, is Sudan. You can flip the coin and have a war that happened, and now the collapse of the state structure with the popular uprising we had practically last year, and the president being arrested. In those two cases, you have that. But I'm very much, let's say, I am prudent when talking about the death of Biya, because he, as we well know, tyrants at the end of their career, particularly when the state is collapsing, tend to use that trick, announcing their death, to actually have people coalesce around them to make sure that they still have a certain popular appeal. A couple of head of states used that. Mugabe, for instance, announced his death a couple of times before he actually was pushed out of power. But people had him die, I think, 2 or 3 times before. And Biya, of course, died. I think it was in 2005 or something like that. It was announced that he died, and he came back, and he could coalesce people who actually had parted with him. And finally, he could have some popular appeal around him, because people tend to support somebody who comes back. I can even take the example of Mobutu, who he was sick a couple of months before his collapse, and he could coalesce a certain sense of sympathy. And since many of his children were dying, so the population somehow had sympathy for him and coalesced around him. So I'm very much skeptical about that story of Biya's death. And one of my reasons is we don't need Biya to die. We need him to be prosecuted for the crimes he committed. And ICC is there waiting for him. We have a clear case that is being mounted, and we have some really intelligent and very much resourceful people working on those cases against him, because it is simply not normal that Mali, for instance, will already have a case at the ICC, and Cameroon will still not have a case at the ICC. I think you, as a barrister, will find it not to be normal. Normally, Cameroon and Mali should be at the ICC, specifically because more people died in Cameroon in the course of 3 years than actually 3 times more people died in Cameroon in the course of 3 years than people died in Mali in the course of, I think the 7 years of civil war. So one will expect the case of Cameroon to be at the ICC. I personally want Biya to stand up, to respond for the crimes he committed. And I specifically want all the people who are part of or were part of his system. We can take Garbo, for instance. We have the names to actually respond and answer to their crimes. One of the other reasons I don't want to fuel that narrative of Biya's death is indeed that after a meeting with Biya, or with X, let's say with Biya, the French ambassador came out. It was on April the 16th, and gave a momentous change in France's politics towards Cameroon. You remember that during all the months of the Ambazonian struggle, France was actually the only country that was in opposition to Western nations, in opposition to the US, in opposition to Germany, in opposition to the UK, etc., arguing for Cameroon, arguing for a united Cameroon, arguing for decentralization.
But Patrice, has that really changed? I don't see any change in French policy, because I think as far as French Cameroon policy is concerned, the French have the knife and the yam. And if French Cameroon is still resisting a negotiated settlement in this conflict, it is because the French are saying, don't do it.
Yeah, I accept that fully. I was closing an argument on Biya's death. I think, it is important to have that meeting of the 16th and the statement of the French ambassador as being let's say, an attempt at a turnaround. And now, if we have a collapse, if Biya, for instance, will be kicked out of power, if you have a coup, if he dies, etc., then such a turnaround will become meaningful. But so far, it is not meaningful because we don't have any substantial consequence.
No, you are correct there. None of us wishes that Biya dies. We want him to stay alive and face his crimes at the International Criminal Court. However, looking at what the French are up to in this conflict, I think I disagree with you a little bit that the French are kind of softening down, telling French Cameroon, we will give you no dime for reconstruction until there is a negotiated settlement. I don't see it so, because if it were so, UNDP, United Nations Development Program, would not be putting out itself as partners with French Cameroon in the so-called reconstruction. You have to know that the French are the ones doing all these negotiations with the international bodies to come in and stand on the side of French Cameroon. And the French have yet, they are the only major nation in Europe that is yet to endorse the Swiss negotiations. So the idea that they are beginning to soften down, I don't see it. Maybe we see something different.
We agree on all those accounts. I think it is important to see if even if there was a change in France's policy towards Cameroon, it will have some. It will need to be seen on the level of economics. It will need to be seen on the level of oil, for instance, and that is not happening. But what I'm trying to say is the road to negotiations is not a straight path. If we expect the road to the Swiss initiative to be straight, I think we will be fooling ourselves. What I think is going to happen is that one will need to have on one hand a carrot, and one will need to have a stick on the other hand, because the major obstacle in front of us in the road towards the Swiss negotiations is BIA. Is the BIA government. It is the government of Cameroon that doesn't want to commit to those negotiations. So there needs to be an approach that at the same time brings a stick, and on the other hand brings the carrot. But one also will not, one will be fooled to not imagine that even negotiations can be used as a way to fool Amazonians into a process that leads nowhere. Therefore, Swiss negotiations certainly will need to have many chapters, Swiss 1, Swiss 2, or maybe Swiss 3. So I think history is there to teach us to be cautious. But also, I think it is important to read the tea leaves when they simply appear on the table. If from February to April the 16th, France has given some signs of a softening of its position towards the Swiss initiatives, it will be foolish to not see that because it is an attempt, and it is a chapter that is not
what specifically are you looking at that informs you that the French are softening?
No, I'm not saying that substantially they are soft. I'm just saying that they are verbalizing something that's different. The language of diplomacy they are using now is different from what, for instance, Macron expressed in, I think it was May 2018 in Calabar, when he was picked up by somebody who asked a question about what's happening in Cameroon, and he expressed, he actually clearly formulated some chapters that became the roadmap of, France's politics towards Cameroon until 2020. So 2 years of clear formulation of support towards decentralization, support of what he calls stability, and a support of a bilingual state. So that was 2018, and his statement is there on YouTube. Now, after he was called out, and I think it was February 2020 by Calibro, he expressed something that formally is a little bit different from what he had expressed in Calabar. And I think that slight formal change has
Calabar is about a year ago, because I remember watching that interview, and again, it's about a year ago, more than a year ago. But what we see is in the French, since then, they have said, we think that the Grand National Dialogue is the way to go, or was the way to go. They have said that since after Calabar or after Abuja. They have also not supported the Swiss initiative as the US, the British, the UN, they have done. It is difficult for me, or maybe any other person out there, to see any change in French position. We see the French presiding over meetings in Boya, with the governor sitting next to the French ambassador. We see the French ambassador, if there wasn't an apparition, sitting side by side with Biya in the Unity, so-called Unity Palace. And they come out of those meetings, nothing has changed. Biya, they continue to kill and brutalize and rape. Nothing has changed in their policy, except maybe, as we heard earlier in this program, they are pulling out for good. What do you think, Patrice? Do you think they are pulling out for good?
I was saying that there has not been a substantial change, but I think there should be a distinct analysis between language and what one is doing, between what one is saying and what one is doing. For instance, the meeting between the French ambassador and the governor of Calabria in Boya, these are things that otherwise would not make any sense if they were not the continuation of something that he verbalized in April 16 after meeting with Biya. And I would like to read what the French ambassador actually said. He said, La France, I can read in French and I will translate it into English just now. La France accompagnera la reconstruction du NOSO, mais avant, il faut un accord de paix entre le gouvernement et les bandes armées, which is to say, France will help in the reconstruction effort in the Northwest and Southwest, but before there should be a peace agreement between the government and the armed groups. So I think it is a different language than what Macron had expressed in Calabar and Abuja. It is simply a different language. I'm not sure there is a difference between that language and what is being enacted on the ground. But as we know, Biya during his talk on May the 19th didn't talk about what is happening in Amazonia. He did not even mention it, even though it is a crisis that is creating more dead than COVID. Substantially and even in the factual numbers. But what remains is, it just seems to me that such change in language also has to be taken seriously. One will now have to put that language in front of actions, saying that, look, you may have changed your language, but the Biya government is still killing. It is still committing atrocities. It is still burning villages. It is still doing this and that. It is still militarizing the place, when one of the most sensible and most understandable things to do will have been to not, for instance, create a military hotspot in Garbo, a military fort in Garbo, which the Biya government is doing. So it will contradict what the French government just said. But I think to not underline that change of language will seems to me to be a little bit blind in front of things that are happening. Because when one does any form of lobbying, the goal of lobbying is indeed to have a government change its language first and then its actions.
Thank you. We would love the French to know, Barrister John, before I bring you in, whether the French change.
I think, Barrister, you can.
We don't need the French to come and help us. We will help ourselves. We are helping ourselves. We are raising our own money to fight our own war, the war that is forced upon us by the French. So whether they soften their language, change their positions, just doesn't mean anything to us out here in Amazonia. But Barrister John, let me come to you talking about negotiations. There continue to be a group out there. About that. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
I know that, yes. Hearing me is okay. So I was trying to say there continues to be a group of persons out there who continue to feel that, or continue to spread the message that there is some American, German-led negotiations out there that nobody has seen. You will recall that over the weekend or before the weekend, there was this statement that went viral in the social media with talks of the United Nations for Central Africa office talking about negotiations, the United Nations Security Council appealing to the US and Germany to come in and mediate between Amazonia and French Cameroon. Now, these things turn out to be all lies, fabrications. Fabrications. Why do you think people glory in telling stories like these that hold no water, which are pure fake?
Chris, before I answer that, let me make a few clarifications. As a lawyer, I know that dying declarations are taken very seriously, and they are not objected. They cannot be objected to. I have been very skeptical, even though I keep talking about the death of Mr. Bia. I've been very skeptical until I heard a death declaration. I read much about Dr. Marius Etundi. He has been a medical doctor for Bia for a very long time. He is a fervent supporter of Mr. Bia. He's come from that area. He's a Bulu, and I would take his dying declaration seriously. To answer your question, Chris, this is one of the things that I was going to confront Professor Ngana with, because he took that arm of the negotiation from Central Africa to New York very seriously. What happened was that article was first written by an Amazonian activist. I don't want to call the name. He wrote that article, and inside that article, he whitewashed our former president. Now, that article went viral, and people have carried the story to mean that the United Nations is calling on the United States and Germany and members of the Security Council from Africa to mediate in that crisis. Those were lies fabricated by that activist, and those lies have gone viral. That's why I take everything on the social media with a grain of salt. But these are the people who have always stood on the way of the Swiss initiative, Chris. They have used all kinds of means, including when the Swiss proposed a humanitarian finance of 3 billion francs CFA to Cameroon government, and they took it and ran away with it and said, oh, those are the Swiss that you are relying on. They cannot be honest brokers. They cannot be this. They cannot be that. We know where that is coming from, Chris. It is pure fabrications from people, from Amazonians who have never believed in Swiss stock, including those who have been there and walked out. So that is the only way I can explain that. It is rather unfortunate that some people want to torpedo the French stocks, I mean the Swiss stocks, the Swiss initiative, by bringing in fabricated stories, tying the Central African representative to the United Nations, to say that the United Nations is now ordering calling on the United States and Germany and the African states in the Security Council to mediate. I don't know, but I want Prof to know that story was started by an Amazonian activist in London, who was first in Belgium. Now he lives in London.
Right,
so,
it kind of,
and that's where the lies came from.
Right, and it kind of went viral, and everybody thought that was an authentic report. And you look at that report has no letterhead, has no signatures. All you see is what is written there. And I'm kind of believing that what was written there was pulled out of some French Cameroon document go on, please.
When you read that first report that I read, and you go onto the Facebook, it refers you to the Facebook. You click on it, you will see Mark Barata at the end. That is a signature. So all I'm saying is that story was started by Mark Barata. Let me be clear here. And it is now gone viral. There is no such thing like the United Nations calling on the United States and Germany to mediate. Because, as you well know, Chris, the United States, Germany, that's through the European Union, even the African Union, and the Canadians have all supported the Swiss initiative.
Let me make this very, very clear, especially for those on ground zero who are not privileged to the kind of access that we have to some of this information. Whenever you find a statement out there, circulating out there from the embassy, from the United Nations, from the AU, from the Swiss, please, until we confirm it from the interim government, take it for nothing. That's what I will say to you. Take it for nothing. Because we have realized different attempts from the day number one of the Swiss initiative. People who refuse to be a part of it. People who refuse to sit on table with us have since gone out there trying to do everything to spoil the Swiss initiative. And it is very, very unfortunate. You find people with the titles of doctors and professors before their names out there. I'm talking about in the Amazonian side of this conflict, spreading these rumors, these lies. I just pity some of these guys that they go out and they promote these lies when they know there is nothing behind them. So ground zero, this is very important. Ground one, this is very important. When you see press statements, wait until we confirm it. Every important press statement, when we try to vet it, and when we vet it, it is factual, we will let you know, we will confirm to you, because some of these statements gives people unnecessary tension that they should not have. So please, that press statement was faked, and only the faker knows what the intention was. But so let's talk about something else.
Yes.
Let's talk about the war drive. But you know what? I like to go to Prof first to talk about Prof Nganam. Tell me, what do you think of the war drive that Amazonians are carrying out there? What do you think about it?
The first thing I would like to say is that, let me close that point about the statement and, what I think about the Swiss initiative. It is not possible to stop a war. Either way, you have defeat or you have victory without a negotiation. So the principle of it has to be acquired. And we are here not talking about who is going to lead us, who is going to make up the table or the room, or in what country is going to happen, who knows. What is important is that no war has been ended, no independence has been gained, etc., without a negotiation at a certain point. And it is important that the principle remains on the table. What we are talking about here is the principle. And now, along those lines, I think that any form, any idea, anything that Amazonia can do to increase its leverage is good. Because that is the way you get the best out of any form of negotiation. Because you establish the fact of your own self-rule. You establish the fact of your own self-determination, and you establish the fact of your own self-reliance. So in other words, you establish the fact that you do not need the other guy to run your own affairs. And you establish even the history of it, which is why sometimes negotiations will need a couple of years before they happen. I am personally even surprised that after 3 or 2 years, one is already talking about negotiations. I see that as simply being an introduction into something that is going to happen anyway. And there are many scenarios, one of which certainly is that Biya is not eternal, but what is going to remain is our people. So what is clear is that at a certain point, Biya will either die or be kicked out or be chased or whatever. And you have a new scenario, but at the center of that, you will need to have negotiations as well. So,
I'm
so
laughing.
exactly. So at a certain point, one will have to maybe on the fast pace have now a table and negotiate. So therefore, I think that the Swiss negotiation have a clear advantage for all of us. It forces all of us to think about that specific idea of what a negotiation will have to be. It forces all of us, particularly Amazonians, to make sure that they have the leverage for the moment when one is actually forced to negotiate quickly. And then,
Prof, without negotiations, don't you see Amazonian restoration forces winning an outright victory over French Cameroon?
but that is what I'm talking about. Remember, I talked about successes.
So in that way, we don't need to go to the negotiation table. We just kick them out.
No, it never happened that the country will be. It never happened in history. Take Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, etc., Algeria. At a certain point, you have negotiation. History is there. So we have to open our history books and learn. I'm saying that what Amazonian fighters are doing on the ground is increase the leverage that Amazonia will have on the negotiation table. That is what is happening. Of course, it is the way, it is the only way actually one has to make sure that the leverage is there. And the deeper that, leverage goes, the better it will be for any negotiator or, for the leader. We well know that negotiations also create a leader. So you want to make sure that the person who goes to those negotiations, or the people who go to those negotiations, are actually the ones who get out of them as leaders. So you want to choose your own leaders, clearly. In summary, I'm saying that anything, be it a draft, be it even increase of arms, be it even creation of schools, of school systems, be it creation of a currency, anything that you can have to increase your leverage ahead of negotiations is excellent.
Yeah, and relating to that, what Amazonians are doing in this world drive is exactly taking their own destiny into their hands. Those are the things we are talking about, right? I mean, their zeal to go out, raise millions to defend their land, to defend themselves. That is the self-determination we're talking about here.
Yeah, because of course, the first sign of a self-determination is the creation of your own administration. And administration means that you have a human capacity as well, and that human capacity, human resources, as one will say, or if one uses the language of 19th century, one would talk about manpower. So human resources, and human resource means that you need to have a budget to be able to finance all the things that are necessary for that. And listen, I have not even talked about having an army there. I've simply talked about administration, and of course. Now we are talking about military groups, if you can call them the way you want, but at a certain point you will need to have one united army, because that is the way you actually can sustain your own independence.
We actually do have a one united army. Unfortunately, many do not realize that. So, oh my.
Yes.
Sorry, ladies and technical issues here, but sorry, I was going to say that we have a one united army. What people just do not realize is that we have one. We just don't call it a one united army. But when you imagine that in every county we have erected an army, in every local government, we have erected an army. And the army is essentially defending Ambazonia, county by county, LGA by LGA. That is what we are talking about. We have a united army. that is controlled from the central government here, the interim government. We just want people to know that. And they are all coordinated from here. But so,
yes.
So you can.
okay, let Patrick just finish and then you come in, Barasanso.
Okay.
Patrick, please.
Okay.
Yes, I was just saying that any form of draft will tap into such a body. Let us even call it a body politics that I termed, that I called leverage. And the heavier such a body politics is, the better chances you have in any form of negotiations, because the principle of negotiations will always have to be on the table. And I will be very much confident if people like Barrister will marshal us step by step through what a negotiation is, because the Swiss initiative, and I'm very happy that one talks about initiative. And yes. I think the best part of it is that it helps us actually be prepared. It helps Amazonians be prepared, towards something that is going to be inevitable anyway. And I think going into negotiations without experience is the best way to lose. So therefore, here is an occasion actually to be prepared. That is the only thing I want to say, to be prepared in principle. And when now maybe it's going to be Nigeria that's going to be the negotiation thing, third party. Maybe it's going to be Uganda. Maybe it's going to be Algeria. Who knows? But the Swiss initiative will have helped us.
Correct.
Barasanso, please.
Yes, I like to take the prof's second, I think either second or third, the economic collapse of La Republique, the economic point that he raised as a victory. I will start from there before I get to the draft. Prof was very, very correct in his analysis of the economic situation. Amazonians have virtually destroyed the economic live wire of La Republique in Amazonia, except for oil. CDC is gone, Pamol is gone. Now we read in the New York Times and in the local papers in Cameroon and on social media that they have stopped production of oil and gas in, what do they call that place? Yes. Because of insecurity, because Amazonian restoration forces are not allowing them to do anything further. That's why they have stopped. That brings me to this draft. This draft has sent a very, very, very powerful message to the BI regime, if it still exists. The message is, even though we have collapsed your economy, we want you to go down to the abyss. Therefore, we are raising money to ensure that we will not only rely on the economic collapse of your country, because France is still propping you up. We will decimate your forces from our territory, and it will give us a negotiating position, a good negotiating position from the position of strength, like the Prof said, when we get to the negotiating table. That is what the draft is doing. La Republique is not sleeping. They are not at ease with this draft. Let nobody deceive you, because they never expected that we will be able to come up with resources to continue this war. Now, I overheard the Prime Minister talking about, we are trying to evaluate to see if we can declare ceasefire, because we have virtually decimated the Amber Boys, and there are only pockets of resistance here and there. That is wishful thinking. It's wishful thinking, and this draft should tell him that we are determined to go even further than where we are today. That is the effect of the draft. And I am pleasantly surprised and happy with the way Amazonians in the diaspora have responded to this draft. I don't need to start talking about the figures here, because we all know. The principle of it is to add to the economic collapse and the nightmare of Mr. Bia's regime. That is what we're attempting to do. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was the fact that even me sitting here, I'm not happy if Mr. Bia dies. But I am telling us that we should not rely on anything from Mr. Bia anymore. Because I know from a dying declaration of somebody dying and makes a declaration in law, we call that a dying declaration. And it's a further indication to me, almost feeling it to 100% that Mr. Bia is no more. But that notwithstanding, for those of us who want to believe that he should be there so that we get into the ICC and so on, I am of that school, but I am afraid to say that I've lost all confidence that Mr. Bia will come to the ICC because he's no longer there.
Thank you. Thank you. We have just a few minutes left to call it a day. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be no phone calls today. We're having some little technical issues here, so we will forfeit phone calls for today. But before we go, Prof. Patrice, where do you stand? Where do you stand in this struggle? I know you have been a supporter of the Ambazonian struggle from the onset, but the thing has evolved to where we are, where the only option is independence for the southern Cameroons, for Ambazonia. Do you totally support Ambazonians, as Jean-Pierre Dupont would say, if it is independence, let it be?
Actually, I think you are 2 years late here, Chris. I'm still waiting for my passport. Maybe that's what's happening. After I was king of Cameroon, my first statement was that I need a passport now, and the best passport I will need to travel around is the Ambazonian passport. Exactly. So where is my passport? That is my question. I need to travel after COVID. I need a passport here. You are responsible.
Well, the first batch printed. I will make sure you get one. You get one of the first passports that Ambazonia produces. Now, by the way, we are beginning to produce IDs. Maybe you need an ID first.
Yeah, I'm totally happy to have an ID, but can I travel with an ID from New York to wherever I want to go?
Another technical itch?
I think.
Unfortunately, that's what we're going through today. Among us, at least we'll be able to recognize you with your ID. But that is so good. The last question, Patrice. Do you still see Mr. Kamto becoming president of French Cameroon, given the situation in Yaoundé? I mean, it's over 2 years since he lost. I should say since he lost the election because he's not president. Tell me, do you still see Mr. Kamto becoming president of Cameroon under the current election that is under contention?
I think, at the beginning of our talk, I did mention what I call the slow collapse of the state, and Ambazonia has done its best to make sure through successes, in Ambazonia that it happens. And I also say that a precipitation of or a transformation of those successes into victory will only happen when in Francoland, in Yaoundé, you actually have a collapse of the state. And Bia's, outing, being kicked out of power is one of those things. I'm more interested in the collapse than I am interested in having Maurice Kamto becoming president of Cameroon, particularly because I don't share many of his ideas. So I would like to see that we have a clear victory, and that Ambazonia becomes free, that you have two different countries, two different independent countries. On the one hand, one that speaks English, on the other hand, one that speaks French. I would like to see that.
That's wonderful. You deserve your passport.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very
And
much.
I don't think that in that particularly in that country that will be speaking French, Kanto will become president anyway. But it's my stand. I am more interested in the collapse of the regime, in the collapse of the state that we have here. And clearly, I am a proponent of uprising, be it a popular uprising, be it a military uprising on the francophone side for such a collapse to happen.
Thank you. Barrister John.
Yes, sir. I am very excited. I had known this about the prof. He's a free thinker, and he says what he does, what he thinks, what he does, and he does what he thinks. Having said that, I want to say that the regime will collapse faster than the prof thinks, because without a head, I still say that there is no head of the regime. There is a vacancy in that presidency. Whether we like it or not, it is there. Whether Mr. Biya is not there, it must be a vegetable. I don't buy even that. I know that there's a vacancy in the presidency, and that should create the type of tension that is creating, and there will be an uprising in La Republic of Cameroon. And I want to tell all Ambazonians to be watchful, because what happens in Yaoundé will determine our actions going forward.
Well, thank you, Prof. Patrice and Barrister John. We're going to leave it there for today. I want to thank you for showing up, fellow Ambazonians. We're going to call it a day from here, and I look forward to coming back to you over the week for more updates, on the revolution. We apologize for the technical difficulties that we've been having through the day. We hope to get this fixed before we come back live on the air. Until you see the song, Who Owns the Land? I look forward, ladies and gentlemen, to coming back to you. Good night.
Good night, Chris, and thank you.
no fools on the hill. You must let my people go, so we can rule from Cape to Cairo. You must free my people's hands, so we can rule our purpose land. I wanna know who owns the land. Who wanna know who owns the land? Okay, now listen carefully. Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So, Africa must be ruled by Africans. I wanna know who owns the land. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. We must rule our purpose land. I say, we wanna know who owns the land. I wanna know who owns the land. Aslan, hey, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan. It must be free. Angola want to know who owns the land. Mozambique want to know who owns the land. Namibia want to know who owns the land. I said, someone want to know who owns the land. Zimbabwe want to know who owns the land. African freedom fighters want to know who owns the land. Now listen to the history. We've been here since creation. We've been here since creation. What else do I know? Since the time of sun and sand. Since the time of moon and stars. Since the time of air and sea. Since the time of men and things. We must run from Cape to Cairo. I said we must rule our purpose land. Purpose land. Oh! Okay now I want to talk to my people. Ira Daniela, oh, I will know. Yeah, Ira Daniela, oh, I will know. Now we are the crossroads. On the Pemo, Dambela. Bill Sarova Daneta. On the Pemo, Dambela. Opalimu Megagera Baba. Opalimu Jasu Yaraka. Opalimu Tizanya Vetonge. Oh,